Hi, and welcome to my studio. I'm Julie, the girl with a brush. And today we're going to do a couple of things. The first thing is I'm going to get started making a new journal for a journal challenge that I want to do. And then I'm going to actually go through some of my journals. I'm not going to do entire flip throughs. I can do some of those at a later date, but I'm going to show you different sizes of journals and what I do in them and how I made the decision as to which journal size that I would be working on and kind of my process for figuring out what works best for me and what inspires me, because we want to sit down and we want to make art. We don't want to fuss over what size journal am I going to be working in. Okay, so let's take a look at the supplies that I have. In front of me, I have some cardstock. And what I did was I just cut an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock into quarters. And I'm sure you're wondering, well, why that size? Well, the math was easy. I'm an English teacher. I don't do math. The second reason is that I have another journal that I made about this size because I started with some scraps of cardboard and they were this size already and I ended up loving it. So that's the important thing. Choose a size that makes you happy. Happy is good, okay? So we're going to start here. The other things that I have for this, I have matte gel medium, and this is Liquitex. I buy it by the gallon. It's my favorite. This is not an adhesive video, so I'm going to tell you that you can use whatever adhesive you want. You can use Elmer's glue, you can use Mod Podge, you can use a glue stick. I would recommend that you use a glue stick if you don't want a lot of bumps. This is a wet medium, but it's not as wet as like Elmer's glue where you get those little bumps in the paper. So just a quick thing. I use matte gel medium for everything. I love it. Okay. And you need a brush. This is my matte gel medium brush. I don't put paint on this. I only put gel medium on it. And that's it. And I have my covers. This is a piece of bias tape that was holding an item that I wore as a necklace. And I couldn't throw it away, of course, because I'm a junk journaler. So I kept it, and this is going to be our ties. And then I've got an assortment of things here. So I got some flowers, and I have the flower directions on this paper. I thought that was really cool. Here's another piece of packaging paper. I'm a junk journaler, as well as many other things. This piece of orange paper, I'm doing a Halloween October challenge. So pumpkin color, of course. This is one of those punch card thingies that is very mathy. Remember, I don't do math, but I think it's very awesome. This scrap of paper is just cool. I've got some envelopes because look at this. Look at this yumminess inside of here. This one's like a basket weave. So I like that. And then these are just assorted scrap papers that I pulled. This, and then I've got some magazine pages. Now, you can just do anything and not be picky. What I did do with this was, like, I love this orb, okay? And since I knew my size, see how that orb fits there? And then I flipped it over and I was like, oh, I'm going to get this pretty paper and part of a mirror. Because I'm making an accordion journal, you're going to see both sides. So I did think about it a little bit when I was grabbing these magazine pages, because we are going to see both sides. So I did grab stuff that had like cool stuff on both sides. But if you use something that isn't cool on the other side, then you just paint over it. And a lot of these papers I'm going to show you came from, this is my scrap box, okay? My little scrap box. So what I'm going to tell you is that I started gathering whatever I would be using to make a particular journal and put it in this box. And then it just started growing to like whatever was left over on my desk. Okay. It is very carefully balanced and weighted with a really heavy book on the bottom so that it doesn't fall over. But the great thing about it is I can dig in here and I can find all kinds of amazing things. Like I can already see 20 other things that I could put in this journal. So I'm going to put that back. It stays over here to the left of me. Okay, so let's go back down front and I'm going to show you how I'm going to get started. And it doesn't really matter. I will tell you that I decided, since it's October, that I grabbed these two oranges and that orange, and then I grabbed the green and this one because I know this is going to seem strange, but this is neutral to me. Okay, kind of a blue-green. So what we're going to do, we're going to make an accordion journal. I've already lost one of my pages. I'll find it. Okay, we're going to make an accordion journal. And if you don't know what an accordion journal is, I have one here. And I love making these. I just love it. You can see, look at all those scraps. And look at this scrap. It looks like a heart. Isn't that incredible? See, if I were working in this today, I'd have to come in and I would have to do this. If you do it twice, it looks like you meant to be sloppy. See? Okay, so this is what that accordion is. And this was actually something that came in the mail, junk mail. And that was how I decided. But you flip it over and you can do both sides. See, you can use both sides of the journal. So that's why I really like that. So let's get started. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up the matte gel medium. Oh, sorry, that was loud. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put some right here. And I'm going to stick this in here. Okay. And I have to decide what to stick on the back. I think I'm going to use part of this envelope with the windows. Okay. And I have a pair of scissors here. Sometimes I tear, sometimes I cut. It really depends on what mood I'm in. I also have a ruler in front of me, so, you know, you can also figure out where that is. I've got the metal part towards where I want to tear, and you just rip it. Okay. I like that you can kind of see in here, and actually, I think I need to cover that, so let's do this. I'm going to cover some of this. So that it's not sticking out. I have scraps on my desk. You know, scraps on your desk are good. And you know, if you're watching this, you know, you're a junk journaler. The scraps are everywhere. You know, the big poster board that they put under or between things in the grocery store. The other day we went to Costco and we were getting ready to leave, and the people next to us were also done, and my husband offered to put their cart back, and I said, grab that paper. They had one of those big chunks. I love this. Hold on. They had one of those big chunky cardboardy pieces of paper in their cart. And I said, grab that paper. And my husband went over and he said, hey, can we put your cart away for you? Which we really were intending to do that. And they said, oh, yes, thank you. And my husband said, yeah, my wife wants this piece of cardboard for her art. And they were like, oh, okay. I'm sure that when they got in the car, they talked about how crazy I was, but I'm okay with that. Okay. I tore a piece off and then I painted it back on, and who cares? Now, I'm going to lay this here to see, what are we not covering? I'm not covering some things. No. We're not covering some things here, so I'm covering this. All right, so what I'm going to show you next. So this is going to be the front of my book. I'm going to glue this on here. And then I'm going to take this and I'm going to tear it, and I'm not going to think about it. The great thing about an accordion journal is you don't have to think. Okay, and I'm going to stick this right here. Okay, so right here. And I'm going to show it from a different angle here. So it's sticking out here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the next thing that I tear, which is a magazine page. Okay. I'm going to flip this over. Let's see what we want to stick out, right? We want the disco ball. Okay. I'm just putting some glue about where I think it's going to stick. And I'm kind of trying to keep a straight edge at the top, okay? Now, I'm going to put some matte medium over this here, and later you can come back. The great thing about matte medium is you can come back actually and coat all of this magazine page to give the page some tooth, because then whatever you put on it, you know, you can go over it with colored pencils or, you know, whatever you want. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this, and I usually have my bone folder, but if you don't have a bone folder, a ruler is fine. This is going to stick because it's wet, but I'm trying to show you something. So now we've got our fold and the size of our page, and what we're going to do is we're just going to take more pieces and we're going to continue gluing and folding and gluing and folding, okay? And I'm going to stop here because in the description, I'm going to put a link to a video of me making an accordion journal so that you can see the full process, and I talk through some tips and things, okay? So this is my little journal that I'm going to be working on during the month of October, and I'll dip back in so that I can share what I'm doing with you. So you're going to have to come back to my studio. But what I want to do next is I want to show you some of the journals that I have and how I decided which journal size that I wanted to use. Okay. I got a pile as big as my head. All right. So I'm actually going to start lower. So during COVID, I was, like many people, working from home, and you find that you have a lot more time. And I signed up for an online art class, and they said, get a journal. And so I kind of read the comments and I looked, and everybody was recommending this journal. I mean, I decorated the cover, but usually it looks like this. Okay. So this is a journal from Ranger, and it is by Diane Reevely, and it's called the Creative Journal. And it's great. It's got a pocket in the front. I love that. I'm going to lay it down here. And the page, this binding is amazing. You can do anything to this paper. It's nice and thick. Okay. And this is basically a lot of what I did during COVID. Okay. So the paper holds up to anything. Okay. And it's a big journal. There's big pages to fill. Okay. What I found was this is really a great journal, and I was still working in it. In the meantime, I actually found Diane Reevely's videos online and started watching them, and then I really got into more of Diane's things and took some classes with her. So now I have a collection. But even without that, that journal is my go-to journal if I want a larger space to work in, and I want something like I have an idea and I'm inspired and I want to make it bigger. Okay. One of the things, and you'll notice here on my table, I have this purple paper, purpley, whatever paper that is totally covered with ink. Okay. This is my under paper, and I always have brown paper under my work surface. I also have a silicone mat under here in case I need something else. And you'll see, can you see down here? You'll see that like down here, oh, and here's one of them. I punch things out of it sometimes. Look at that. I needed a purple flower for something. So I just stuck the paper punch in there. But I want to show you this because this is a zine, and there's lots of videos, and you can look up zines. I gotta pull this or it's gonna dry. You can look up zines and how to make them. But this is my underpaper. This is off of the table at a restaurant that we went to, but I used this as a travel journal when we went to see my son. My son graduated. Here he is graduating with his master's. And so I kept my journal in this, but this whole thing was the underpaper. And that's really fun. And I just grabbed this with me everywhere we went. I took a couple pens. I doodled, I sketched. It was very fun. So this is the size. It's a little bit bigger than some of the other zines that I've made, but you can see. Now you see me, now you don't. How big it is, okay? But you can make them smaller. The other thing that I have done is I've made little journals. Now, this is why that little journal, I put that tie in there, because what happens is they start to get really, really chunky. Like this, look at this one. The whole back is bent. But you know what? It's okay. So, you know, this is a journal that I sewed the pages in. I'm trying to find the middle where I sewed. Where did I sew? I sewed somewhere. We're getting close. Maybe I put paper. Oh, no, there it is. Okay. So there's where I sewed through it, just a pamphlet stitch with a lot of pages. A lot. Maybe I sewed twice. Nope, I only sewed once. So, you know, this is a really chunky one. It will lay flat, but not very well. So I put the tie on it, and it is what it is. You know, it's crooked and bent. And you can see this one. This one's about the size of my hand, okay? About the size of my hand. And I showed you that other little accordion that I had made. I've got several of those. That little accordion has kind of become my go-to for a journal that I want to complete in about a month. And this one, this is really fun. I made this one and I haven't done anything with it yet, but if you have a 5 Below, you should get these tempera paints. They're little sticks, and they're like, oh, here they are in the back. Look, I can even show you the back. They're like big chapsticks. I love them. But again, this is my underpaper. So I didn't think this was going to be an underpaper video, but I made this, and then I made beads out of magazine paper, because I used to do that when I was little. So here's more underpaper inside of here. And this is a gel print that I put on the back, but I used a box. So that was my inspiration. This is a journal made completely of tags. Okay, just tags. Here's one of those punch cards. I've got a couple things sewn. Oh, these. I love these. When you go to the paint store, I don't care if they talk about me as the crazy lady that puts all the paint chips in her pocket. I'm fine with that. So this was really fun. I made this like in a couple days. So here we are. This was a little art project that I had done at a different time, and I just glued it in there. And so that was the other thing. So there we go. Fun, fun. Here's the other side of that card. So this has, again, one signature in the middle, and the knots came out here, and then I just tied a bunch of ribbons. But again, about this in my hand. Okay. Now we're getting a little bigger. So this past spring, I took a free class with BB Henry. I will link the information in the details. I believe, my understanding is she does this class every year, and she shows you all of these techniques to make papers, and she suggests that you choose a color palette. And so I chose purple, obviously, and I made this. And this past year has been a rough one, and I call this my purple I've got the blues journal, because literally I poured my heart out inside of this journal so that I could get all of the ickiness out. So this was really a great journal. I used all kinds of scrap papers. I used papers from my basket that I showed you. I did some sewing. This sheet already had the holes in it. This is a bunch of strips that I just wove. All of these scrap strips, and then I dumped paint all over it. On a total side note, I brought home tumbleweeds when we went to Denver to see my son. They made me very happy. As I said, I was having a rough time. My husband stopped and watched me run after tumbleweeds down the side of the highway, and I would do it again. So there we go. But you can see in this one, I'm going to stand it up this way. I've got 1, 2, 3 signatures, which is the groups of pages. 1, 2, 3. And the cover actually started with a paper bag, a grocery bag from Trader Joe's. And the reason that I know that is here is the handle. It is the handle of my basket of bunnies. So all I did was take that grocery bag, I covered it with paper and fabric, and I sewed through it. And there it is. And this one might need a tie because it's chunky. This is a tissue box. I really liked this tissue box. And I'm laughing at myself because it's a tissue box. So this is where the tissues came out. You know. And I do this little challenge, and this made me very happy. So instead of tissues, I'm pulling out art, right? I wanted to show you this. This is an old book, and I tied strings. And then the papers can come in and out of here. You can slide them out. Let me get to a string here. Oh, it's got to be big this way. Here, see, you can just push, you can just pull the papers out and then put them back. And it looks like I don't know, like I had an idea and I didn't finish that one. But that's okay. So I do have some space in this one. But again, you know, this is a little pocket. This was, obviously, I've got prompts here in the pocket. So this was a journal that I made for prompts. It's me. I introduced myself here. I'm not sure what the challenge was. I know that sounds awful, but I did it and filled this. But this is a book, and all I did was cut out the guts, cover the inside. I wrapped it with fabric, and then I put some old wallpaper here, and then I tied these strings. So if you don't want to sew, if that makes you nervous, I'm going to show it this way too. You can just tie these strings, and then you tuck the pages in, and you can pull them out. So this one says open. Look at that. And that was really nice, especially when you're making it, because like this page, you know, if I wanted to work on it, I would just slide the whole thing out, and then you put it back in. And that was really fun. Here's another book. Okay. Why did I decide on this size? I decided on this size because I loved this green cover. And that was my inspiration. Sometimes that's all you need. And look at this wallpaper. And it's bumpy, and you have to touch it. You can hear it. A little ASMR there. And this book, a friend of mine, we went on a week-long retreat, and we each brought an old book and filled it with images of birds. And this is here because it keeps sticking, but here are my birds with my trees. So, you know, again, you just you have to do what inspires you. This took forever to cut out. I don't recommend something this intricate, but you know, I love this one. So, you know, that's kind of what's going on here. And I still have some room to grow in here where I haven't, you can see here I glued about 4 pages together. So, you know, you just have to do what moves you. Isn't that pretty? This is kind of coming apart here, so I will put some washi tape or some paper of some sort along there. But this book, I did remove some pages from it. I did tear some pages out so that I could get down to a smaller amount before it got really fat. Okay. That's another book. This, I love Alice in Wonderland. This one I want to show you because I can't remember how I did this one. I tore some pages out of this one, and then I taped in sections of watercolor paper. I tore out more than half of the pages, but I left the ones that had illustrations that I really liked. And then when I get here, I might gesso part of this and leave this, but this is all going to be an Alice in Wonderland journal. Everything in here will be quotes from Lewis Carroll and Alice related. And I want to show you in my other camera angle here. This is my little box in my studio. And the nice thing about this box is it sits on the shelf and it shows off all of my little journals. Okay. And I think that this little vignette was really the inspiration for this video, because I come into my studio and I'm trying to figure out what am I going to work on or where am I going to start. And this box is always sitting there. And I love that because it's great inspiration for art. You can see I just stand them all up in there. And now that I've done all that, you might not be able to see it because it's too low, but there they are. See? So I walk in and I see that. That makes me want to make more. So the first thing that I want to tell you about choosing a journal size is pick a size that inspires you. The second thing that I want to tell you is if you have a large journal and you are, making a mark and you're, following tutorials and you're still kind of struggling, to fill it up, like my half empty one, right? And you think, I'm just not filling journals. One thing I will tell you is if you watch other people's flip throughs, be inspired, but don't feel bad that your journal isn't full yet. Because I got in my head a little bit about that. Because I was like, wow, I feel like I'm pretty prolific. But these people keep showing these full journals. And I don't have a full journal. So what's wrong with me? And the answer is there's nothing wrong with me. I work at a different pace. And then I went off in a little bit of a different direction. And I started making journals. And I started using smaller journals, and I found that made my brain really happy. Now I still come back to my big journal, when I want to do something big, Okay, I come back to this big format here that I have in front of me, and I work in here. Okay, because I'm ready for something bigger. But it's okay that there are, you can see I have started pages, I have empty pages, I have dirty pages. All of this is waiting for the day that I flip through it and I say, oh my gosh, like the little journal that I flipped through at the beginning and I stopped and I drew the heart on it, you know. The reality is that, you know, you just have to wait and you have to find something that inspires you. And if you really want a big journal, then, you know, go through and put some paint on pages. But only do it if your heart tells you to do it. And don't get in your head about it. And don't compare yourself to others. So the journal size that you use, you will know. You will know. Honestly, when I started with that big journal and I was working in it, you know, I thought, this is really nice, but, and I'm making nice things and I like them, but I didn't feel completely settled, like this is the journal that I want to pick up every day, or this is the journal that I want to finish this month, because I knew that I may not be able to. So you just have to find the one that's right, you know, like when you try on bathing suits. Nobody wants to try on bathing suits. And you finally find the one that's right and you know it. And I think the same goes with journals. This tiny little size that's somewhere between the size of my head and the size of my hand. Those have become my go-to journals for daily work. So don't be afraid to try. And if you are experimenting with sizes, I would suggest that you make some junk journals with all of the things that you have that come in the mailbox or that you save from the places that you go, and find a size that speaks to you. I hope that this has been helpful. And if you would like to see more of any of the journals that I've shared with you today, please let me know in the comments, because I'm more than happy to do a flip through or to talk more about any of the things in those journals. And I hope that you were inspired to go and find the perfect journal or make the perfect journal. So I'm going to tell you, it's time to go grab your brush.